NTS World's trending international news, latest astrology prediction, latest horoscope. Let's begin. Career through astrology that will actually make your life better. How to choose a career through astrology. Introduction. Vedic astrology is a heavenly science. It helps an individual in materialistic accomplishments and achieving a profound level. The capability of an individual can be investigated, assuming that the positive planets are fortified in the horoscope. Vocation is one of the main parts of a person. Crystal gazing not just underlines a person's tendency towards a specific field but also helps in discovering the appropriate area of profession or occupation by going through the horoscope. Likewise, it can show which calling will bring achievement and fortune. For the locals, solid and positive planets in the horoscope choose the most appropriate vocation for an individual, whether work or business. Mahadasha, main period, and Antardasha, sub-period, and travel of planets likewise assume a significant part in choosing the ideal planning of such an occasion. But, on the other hand, the malefic impact of terrible planets now permits a person to be ready for the productivity of even a happy time. Sun sign assumes a fundamental part in discovering the appropriate profession. If we discuss Arians, we need to see the characteristics of Mars, who is the master of Aries. Assuming Mars is solid, vocation or calling identified with Mars will be reasonable to him. Mars addresses weapons, discharge, energy, military, police, specialists, and designers. The locals will get sufficient freedoms in these fields. Like insightful. The Sun, the ruler of sign Leo, is the planet of power. Consequently, pioneers and government officials have found their Sun solid in the horoscope. Taxpayer-driven organizations additionally fall under this classification. On the off chance that the Moon is solid, the appropriate professional will have a place with nursing, the kids, ladies, public, voyaging, marine-related, import, send out, and so forth. Mercury is the planet of correspondence. It is the master of both the signs viz. Gemini and Virgo. Vocation identified with correspondence and understanding is its region. Such locals have a solid preference for correspondences. Workspace of composing, instructing, distributing, news coverage, administrative positions, bookkeepers, PC related, web planning, editors, transport. This multitude of fields relate to correspondence, will suit them. They have excellent exchangeability. Significant stargazers have their Mercury solid. Jupiter, the master of Sagittarius and Pisces, means the profession identified with law, finance, researchers, clerics, educationist, and strict heads. Venus is viewed as the image of magnificence, diversion, and sex. Usually, the locals with solid Venus will tend to these spaces. But, moreover, a vocation in the field of artistry, extravagances, excellence, music, media outlet, sex industry, INS will suit him the most. Saturn addresses advanced age and challenging work. Its profession incorporates land, labor, agribusiness, making houses and structures, mining, and other relentless work. Rahu is viewed as a mysterious planet. Rahu shows the profession having a place with analysts, doctors, medication, drugs, examiners, squander material vendors, and so forth. Ketu shows otherworldliness. Its profession includes religion, secret undertakings, harms, strict head, and so forth. Prophetic assistance ought to likewise be taken in picking the proper vocation. Prophetic cures are very steady. Soothsaying tips for improving career in Indian astrology. Saturn assumes a considerable part of invocation and expert life. This planet is referred to as giving. difficulties just as inconvenience throughout everyday life. If Saturn is set unfavorably in the diagram, the issues might cause a lot of concern. Saturn creates setbacks and obstacles, however, not the forswearing. In any case, Saturn is an extraordinary instructor too. He gives tremendous troubles and creates setbacks which mean something to comprehend. These hardships and so forth resemble an illustration to an individual that he has accomplished something wrong or has submitted awful karmas in this or previous existence. He needs to reimburse something very similar by bearing this large number of troubles. These challenges make an individual unadulterated and power him to think about what he has fouled up throughout everyday life. Indeed, assuming Saturn is causing every one of the difficulties, he has likewise the possibility to give everything back in the future if an individual is honorable. The job of the 10th place of a horoscope in vocation. The 10th place of the horoscope demonstrates the proficient existence of an individual. His work in vocation can be examined with this house. So Saturn has a unique connection with this house. Saturn, put in the 10th house, or his perspective on the 10th house through ascendant or 4th house, causes introductory obstacles in landing wanted positions, regardless of whether the locals might be capable. However, exact Saturn gives his endowments later on, and in the wake of every one of the obstacles, the local can make progress in position in his profession. In the 8th house, Saturn causes more hardships throughout everyday life, and such an individual needs to experience more in this record. He needs to confront trouble in settling down his life. In this association, the situation of the master of the 10th house ought to likewise be gone through. His position has an impact on the profession of an individual. Whenever set in benefic houses with fantastic planets, a similar will give benefic outcomes. Assuming the 10th lord is frail or hostile planets, a parallel will invoke more issues. Therefore, the 10th master in 6th, 8th or 12th place of the graph dials back his advancement and profession plan. Likewise, the lords of the 6th, 8th or 12th house placed in the 10th house or with the ruler of the 10th house is viewed as unfavorable in regard to work and profession. Saturn travel over the 8th house is viewed as most exceedingly awful for work and calling. Such an individual needs to confront embarrassment, and his seniors and associates might go against him and make inconveniences for him. The job of the 10th house in career astrology. The 10th master in ascendant might show independent work. The 10th ruler in the 2nd house guarantees positions or professions in bookkeeping, education, or banking. The 3rd house offers the correspondence area, distributing or PC information. The 4th house has a place with earth or property and so forth. The 4th house demonstrates building or land business, horticulture, and mining. The 5th house shows revenue in speculation and financial exchange, and the 6th house as backers, lawful consultants, or military area. 7th house shows association. Such an individual might get accomplishments in an association firm. The 10th master in the 8th house demonstrates research-related calling or pay through mysterious science. Finally, in the 9th house, such a position incorporates vocation. However, a journey, visit specialists, teachers, or speakers in instruction establishments. The 10th house guarantees work in the government or administration field. Furthermore, the 11th house might show calling identified with money or exchange. The 12th house might show interest in unfamiliar business or vocation identified with clinical calling. Tips to upgrade your vocation. An expert life. The ruler of the 10th house ought to be fortified to get accomplishment in calling or business. Significantly, the people who have occupations in the work area should take the gift of Lord Saturn to keep up with their work and acquire advancements in their positions and so forth. Ruler of ascendant ought to likewise be dealt with as he plays the central part in making progress in each field of life, including profession. The people who call legal advisors, governmental issues, and instructive foundations ought to reinforce their Jupiter to get accomplishment throughout everyday life. While in the workplace, keep a view having mountains or slopes held tight to the rear of the seat. At all might be your calling. Your seat ought to never be under a pillar. Attempt to abstain from confronting straightforwardly towards the divider while you are sitting in a seat. Division should be on your rear, and there should be open space before you. This gives energy and has a beneficial outcome on his vocation or calling. Which career your horoscope indicates training and career are both inside sown. Training is the medium to accomplish the profession. What an understudy needs to achieve in his work for sure an understudy long for. His vocation relies absolutely upon the choice of the subject he picks at the hour of his additional schooling. Planet-savvy Aries people favor vocations identified with armed forces in police, specialists, industrialists, sportspeople, and so on. Taurus demonstrates vocation identified with extravagance merchandise, beauty care products, style planning, and so on. Gemini indicates correspondence. As such, fields like news coverage, media, bookkeepers, portrayal for others sake suits them the most. The disease is a watery sign that draws in fields like fisheries, petrol, synthetic substances, and marine-related vocation. Leo indicates power as government occupations, legislative issues, and so on are its primary vocation space. Virgo's ruler is Mercury. The line of profession is PCs, bookkeeping, speakers, media, and different fields, including the correspondence. Libra, the indication of equity and excellence, includes the region identified with judgment, judges, style architects, corrective vendors, and even whores. Scorpio signifies mysterious science, specialists, and medications, and synthetic substances. Sagittarius ruler is Jupiter. Like insight, its field is religion, law, educating speakers, etc. Capricorn incorporates earth-related professions like mining the natural substance or extraction work underneath the earth. Aquarius master is Saturn, and councils, experts, savants, and educationists are the spaces of its profession. Indeed, even great crystal gazers with profound information on soothsaying are found under this sign. On the other hand, Pisces, a water-related sign, shows work identified with marine, synthetics, oil, and so forth. Prophetic assistance can be of extraordinary assistance in picking the profession of a youngster. Profession problems and astrology. Many understudies emerge from different universities and foundations looking for appropriate occupations matching their capability and specialized capacities. Some are fortunate to land the position of their decision, while many of the competitors neglect to land the job despite having a high capability. Determination of exact profession is the initial step that should be considered beforehand by the guardians with the assistance of the master. Understudies' inclination should be taken into thought, regardless of whether he will begin another endeavor or has the tendency for specialized instruction ought to be judged. Once in a while, we see that guardians disregard the youngster's decision and capacity and persuasively trouble the kid with the vocation voluntarily. Many understudies emerge from different universities and establishments, looking for appropriate occupations matching their capability and specialized capacities. Some are fortunate to land the position of their decision, while a large portion of the wannabes neglects to land the job despite having a high capability. This is a contradiction when we see some designer or specialized hand chipping away at the agent's table in a government office or some bank. This isn't the work matching his ability and schooling. But, on the other hand, he might be doing it for his business, and flawlessness and investigation in the calling ought not to be expected in such cases. Soothsaying can help discover a kid's tendency, which can also assist him with picking the correct bearing for an ideal calling or business of his decision. This can't be said without a doubt that he will get an unequivocal possibility in the field he has dominated, yet this is, to be sure, a stage towards the accomplishment. Each jobless individual will know when to find a new line of work. Assuming he is now in position, he will get advancement or change in his calling for improvement. Or then again, which business is helpful for him? Investigation of planets in a horoscope in such a manner ought not to be overlooked. My couple of articles will illuminate this issue. Parents' role in children. Career guardians can assume a massive part in choosing the profession of their kids. By uprightness of their insight and experience, instructed guardians can give the most significant help to their children in picking an appropriate vocation. Guardians know intricate details of their kids quite well. They are very mindful of the capacities and level of fitness, nature of instruction being given to the youngsters, and convictions and customs of the family they have a place with. They realize how to meet the assumptions they have from their youngsters by giving them appropriate offices. They can pass judgment on the organization and kinship circle of their kids. Each of the issues examined above is significant. However, the parent-kid relationship is essential. Nobody can overlook the significance of this reality. Guardians who have confidence in their youngsters make trust in them and keep up with it. Next to each other, they additionally watch out for their exercises and friends of their kids. Understudies who are fruitful in their profession don't prevent the job from getting their folks to accomplish the objective. Great guardians ought to give legitimate direction, should take appropriate consideration, and ought to be an old buddy of their kids. They ought to likewise be focused in their conduct and approach. Guardians ought to urge their youngsters to get the most intense training. To the extent that the young lady's instruction is concerned, each parent must give sex value. Likewise, social training and exercises ought to be created among kids to upkeep the customary qualities. Guardians ought to have the persistence to pay attention to their youngsters' concerns and complaints. They should attempt to sit with them and examine their concerns to discover sufficient arrangements. For the most part, understudies don't impart their problems to guardians because of a paranoid fear of being denied and hence causing a hole between the relations. Guardians should attempt likewise to open up to them, once in a while, very much like companions. This is the right of each understudy to anticipate direction and help from guardians. Guardians ought to acknowledge this reality and should take care not to constrain their choices while examining their future profession. Likewise, urge them to take part in extracurricular exercises. Vastu tips for students. Here is a portion of the Vastu tips that can help your kids in acquiring fixation and work on the nature of schooling just by changing the climate and review room in which he is remaining. Never sit while confronting a divider. It implies you are hindering positive energy. Instead, a divider or some vital help ought to be on your back. Windows ought to likewise be not on your back. Likewise, look at your sitting position. At whatever point, reading up and getting ready for assessment, consistently sit pointing toward the north or east or northeast. Ward off all the waste and litter from your current circumstance. The room in which you are contemplating ought to be spotless and peaceful. Likewise, table and PC, assuming any, should be without dust. Books and other materials ought to be organized all around. Keep in mind that neatness gives energy and calming impact on the mind. A cash plant should be put on the southeast corner of the room you are considering if you can organize. An aquarium can be put in the northeast corner to draw in specific energy. Sitting under a bar should be kept entirely away from, regardless of whether at home or office. However, this might cause pointless pressure. A mountain paint can likewise be set behind the position where you sit. This shields the blessing from higher specialists and collaboration from the subordinates. At the point when I will get job, an astrological analyze various places of a horoscope demonstrate the distinctive space of the existence of an individual, like first house or ascendant shows the character, appearance, and perspective of a local. Second demonstrates family, discourse, bank balance, etc. Third, we see the work or calling of an individual from his 10th house, which is otherwise called Kendra. The indication of 10th house and the planet placed in that play a critical part to discover the conceivable field through which a local will procure his vocation. This might be through business, or calling or work. The presence of the ruler of the 10th house might decide various outcomes, relying on the strength of that planet. Its quality in the ascendant will have multiple effects when contrasted with its position in the 6th house or 8th house. Its position in the 1st house demonstrates fulfillment with the work or calling. Then again, its arrangement in the 6th house shows issues and disappointment from work, weakness and worship and part of advantage or malefic. Planets on 10th house or its ruler ought to be cautiously thought about. Saturn assumes the most significant part such as work or administration of a local is concerned because Saturn is notable as a significator of the profession. Therefore, very much positioned or magnified Saturn allows better opportunities of wanted work or calling, especially in the organization field. Unexpectedly, incapacitated or unfavorably positioned Saturn in the graph will be answerable for postponement and deterrent in help or vocation. The position of malefic planets like Rahu and Ketu in the 10th house will likewise influence the expert existence of a local antagonist. Possibly he will land the job at a late stage, or he needs to deal with issues in his working environment. The situation of the ruler of the 10th house additionally assumes the most significant part to be aware of the status and achievement of calling. For instance, the master of the 10th place of the outline, whenever put in the 7th house, will achieve his expert life solely after his marriage. The outcome will rely upon the strength of that planet. The more solid the planet, the more beneficial the results will be. The 10th house is known as Kendra. Assuming the ruler of the 10th house is set in trikona or has any association with the master of ascendant, the local will land the wanted position. Also, trade or parivartan of the master of 9th house and 10th house, or between the ruler of 10th house and ruler of 5th house is considered most auspicious such long ways as calling life of the local is concerned. He will feel no check into his vocation and will get convenient advancements. The sign in which the 10th house is placed is also critical to know expert life's outline. Generally, the perusers are intrigued to know the timings of the landing position. Therefore, the following focuses ought to be considered before coming to a result. Please like and subscribe NTS blog.